Welcome back to a third tutorial here on how to use rubrics in your Schoology course of study as the teacher of that course or the administrator of that course. We've created rubrics in the gradebook. We have taken those rubrics and used them on an assignment, a discussion, and also a quiz on a couple different questions. And now I've had a student or a fellow teacher take my little tests and answer my questions and my assignments and discussions, just so you can see what it will look like to, as the teacher, grade what those assignments would be in whatever it is that you've created using a rubric. So we'll see kind of the application of it. So I'm going to start by getting into my first assignment, and you'll notice again that these gray boxes are telling me, hey, I've got a rubric tied in here. I'm going to click on my literature essay assignment. Here's my rubric. It shows it right through here on the bottom, and I've got my submission. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that submission to grade it. I'll expand it a little bit so I can see. I can go through and read this. I've already read it. I'm just going to show you how to grade it. And you'll notice that I can right away, I had those greened out already because I went through and looked at this. Now, it's going to look blank, and to select parts of the grade, you literally just click on whatever it is that you want that student to have in each category you have on the left, and you're good. You've graded it. It's a 12 out of 14. Anytime I choose a different thing, it's going to automatically address that and change it. You'll notice that this is highlighted right here, the little comment like thought bubble or speech bubble. This one here is not. So this tells me that I had a comment that I posted. So you'll see that I wrote a comment in there. That student will also see the comment, and that comment is tied towards this category or this piece of criteria. So let's say for conventions, I wanted to leave a comment. I click, you did a great job in your overall writing. Whatever. It's there. I have a comment tied to that. So you'll see that I commented on conventions and overall. The other two I did not. So you can leave really specific comments about a specific piece. So, if they did not get a 4, you can tell them why they got the 3, what they missed. If they got a 2, you could tell what would have got them to approaching standard. This is also a great way of giving feedback to students, because you can use the rubric and then update it later on to change that grade if you wanted to give students the chance to revise and think about what was going on and use your comments and then improve their writing to kind of submit it once again as their final piece. This is a great way of giving some of that feedback to them, so then they can go back, make some changes, and then resubmit. So those are kind of the basics for grading an assignment. You click through here, you can leave any comments you want, and you make sure your point total is good. You hit save. It's going to show it right here. Now, there's another comment button here. Notice this doesn't have any comments in it yet. So the difference is the comment we put in the other one is tied to the rubric. These would be tied to the actual gradebook. So these would be synced, added to the gradebook, and in there. And you could have students see those comments or not. So it depends. If you want to make comments that you just want to have for yourself, you can kind of add them in there. But I would use this more for if I wanted to have a comment for a student, or this, maybe some of those blanket comments like the assignment was submitted late with a 1-point deduction or whatever it might be that you've done. So I'm going to go ahead and hit submit. It's there and it's all set. So I'm going to leave that score alone. I could add a comment over here if I wanted to have some back and forth. All those types of things I could do. So now that that's done, I'm going to go ahead and flip over to a discussion. So now we're looking at a book club discussion. I've had my student, Mrs. Mann, go ahead and add a thought here to the discussion. I'm going to show you really briefly that in the discussion, you can highlight a user. So if I wanted to look at only my stuff, anything I post in this discussion. So if I replied to Mrs. Mann, I'll even do that. Good thinking. I would want to add more, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to go ahead and post that reply. So check this out. If I click on highlight user and highlight me, it highlights my original post, but also any of my replies to other people. So this is a really neat tool to be able to quickly visualize everybody's stuff rather than have to dig through and find their name and see what they posted. So that's kind of a neat tool. So I'll highlight Mrs. Mann, and then I'm going to go ahead and here, and I'll see that I can grade it. And this same little window pops up with the rubric button. So if I click on that rubric, up pops my rubric on top. It's a pretty simple one. I'm going to click 2. I'm going to hit save, and now it's got a check mark. So you saw the difference between what it looks like that it needs grading and the check mark, and now it is graded. That grade will work for the entire discussion board. So if Mrs. Mann posted a actual discussion idea and then actually posted or replied to 4 or 5 other people, this one grade is attached to all of those. So you can kind of grade the entire discussion. So if you did have some preset criteria of put your post on there and then I want you to comment on 5 people's ideas, you could have that in there and you could look through by highlighting that user, and maybe the person posted one idea and then only commented on 2 and didn't comment on 3 other people. You could adjust that grade accordingly using the rubric, because that would have been maybe one of your criteria for that assignment. So that's the basics of using a rubric in a discussion board. I am going to pop through here to a couple other discussion boards, and we're going to zip past them using the next button. And my last piece here is a quiz. And you'll notice that I had, again, Mrs. Mann was nice enough to take my quiz. I actually took it for her, but that's, regardless. I'm going to go in here and grade her responses. She made one submission. She attempted it once. She did it today at 11:02, and I have to now score it. It's pending. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to click on View by Question, because I like to grade this way. It shows my first question, my second, and my third, and I will be able to see all the responses by clicking on this. And right now there's 1. If I had 20 people take this quiz, all of them would show up in a big list here, and I can grade them all at once. I love being able to grade the same question over and over again, because you get into a groove and you know what you're looking for. So you'll see again, my rubric score button, my icon there is very evident, it's obvious, so I'm going to use this to grade. So my question was, what is the main character, blah, 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 blah. Here's the response. I can add a comment here if I want to about that piece, but I can also do, just like I have in the past in my other pieces, I can grade, and then I can even leave a comment here. You did not make an inference based on the character's actions. Whatever I want to put, I can have this here. I can even copy it if I wanted to and add it down here, so they'll see it right away. Save changes, and boom, I have the comment here. It's also here if they want to be able to see it. I've got it in both places. I've graded them. That's done. So that question now is over with. It's done. The score popped up here, 1 out of 2, and I am all set. So if I go back to my View by Question mode, I can click on the question 3, and I have a submission. I can read that submission over. I can click on my rubric, and this one you'll notice is more of an essay. It's not a short response. It's a 14-point thing, so I can read that student's answers. I can go through and say this, and it was a good essay, but it was short in text evidence, so I can either leave that quote or that comment here like I have earlier, or I can click Save, and down here I can add that comment of text evidence was lacking to support your ideas, whatever it might be that I'd want to put. Now that student will see that. I can hit Save. You'll notice they got a 10 out of 14, and there you go. So, things to consider are, especially in a quiz, that rubric is going to be worth a lot more than like your short responses or maybe your multiple choice questions. So kind of plan accordingly for how much of a percentage of that overall quiz point you want that to be worth. If it's a 6-question quiz and the essay is worth 20, it's very easy to fail that maybe versus, having it worth maybe less. So you got to kind of take that into consideration when you're building it, just like you do with any other quiz you've ever run. So that's the basics. I have now graded an assignment, a discussion board, and a quiz using a rubric that I created in my gradebook and then assigned to those specific types of questions or assignments inside of my Schoology course. So hopefully you found this useful and it's helped you with your ideas of how to grade, and good luck.